Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect fad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. Welcome back to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. It is Isla, your founder, CEO, and host of the podcast. And today I'm joined by all of our coaches. I'm so excited. I feel like we've finally gotten into a good rhythm of getting everybody on the podcast frequently and having good things to talk about. But today we're going to all reflect on our past year as dietitians that work with clients in weight loss at Millennial Nutritionist. Last year I did this episode and it was really fun. And I'm excited to bring everybody on this year and hear what everybody else has to say. So thank you so much for everybody coming on.
Thanks for having us, Isla.
Thanks for having us. I'm so excited.
Let's see. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're each going to have a couple of things that we have learned about, and let's just go kind of down the list. So we have a Google Doc with some things that we have learned. So I'll take it off and start with what I feel like I have learned, my top 2 to 3 lessons about weight loss from 2022 that hopefully some people can take away that are surprising. My first one is that you have got to do all the steps when it comes to weight loss. And I don't know if this is super transferable when it comes to other people's programs or whatever you're doing out there. But I think one thing that I find over and over again, and I'll be interested to see if y'all do with y'all's clients, is that when I get people who are in a super restrictive mindset, I find it's because they think that they've got to do one thing the most perfect way. And that's how weight loss works. They've got to be super restrictive with calories, but then they're also neglecting exercise. And it's yeah, but if we just exercise a little bit more, then that's how we have flexibility in what we're eating. And that's really what it should look like. It shouldn't be we never exercise and then we're only eating 1,000 calories a day, because that is what you have to do if you're never active ever, because we all work at home now. So we've got to do the produce. We've got to do the exercise. We've got to do the calorie deficit. We've got to also practice a healthy eating pattern. And that's how we have weight loss without feeling super restricted. But what do y'all think about that? Do you ever have that come up with a client where they think they should be losing more weight, but they're only focusing on one part and feel like they need to be super restrictive, or is it just me?
Yeah, no, I definitely have experienced that with clients. And I find that sleep and stress management are 2 huge ones that a lot of people are neglecting today, just with how busy everyone is and how fast paced everything is, that, a lot of people think that they can kind of take time away from sleeping or from stress management, and their body is in a state of stress where it can't really heal itself and recuperate with all of the other changes that we're making in terms of their nutrition.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think you're hitting on a good point that we just need to think about it more holistically than just one little thing. But what were you going to say, Lacey?
I was just going to say, I think it's really important to look at it in this all-encompassing change. And I think it's important to really think through the stress management and what we're eating, but also how we're eating and why we're eating too, and kind of really getting into the behaviors of it. I will say, I agree. I feel like I have a lot of patients and clients who are really focusing in on one particular thing, and they're putting all their energy into that one thing, but then missing out on some of the other parts that are really important too.
Catherine, why don't you take us to one of your things that you feel like you've learned from this past year about weight loss?
So I think the first thing that came to mind was just consistency is so key, which I think really plays off the point that you just made, Isla, right? It's not just one thing we do, but it's really this average of the 7 days. And I think that's helpful to think about and to remember, is that it's not just one day what we did, or one day what went great or what went not so great, right? But it's the average of the 7 days. So I think that's been really, really big for my clients. A lot of my clients, especially when we work together over the holidays, say, you know what, like old me would have just said, forget it. I'm just waiting until January 1st. I'm not even going to try. I already quote unquote messed up. So I might as well just go overboard and enjoy the rest of this. And same thing with like weekend getaways or vacations or anything like that. It's not just the holidays, but it happens all the time. And so I think knowing that, like, okay, even though one day might have happened, or one meal might have happened, or one weekend away or vacation might have happened, like, you don't have to wait till like January 1 or Monday to restart everything, right? When we get in that all or nothing mindset, it doesn't help us. Really, the things that we're doing consistently over time are huge as far as seeing results.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I get clients who, and I feel like Courtney and I maybe hit on this on another episode, that think that they are like doing pretty good, but then when we look and like things are only really getting done twice a week, we don't have to be like super restricted about it. Cause then what sometimes happens is when I point out, yeah, but you're really only doing these things twice a week, then like they think, oh my gosh, well, I've got to do that every day and I'll just never be able to do it every single day. But when we think about like, yeah, but we don't need to be hitting like exactly 10,000 steps every day. It just needs to be like on the weekly average. So instead of just looking at it like microscopically, looking at it week after week tends to really help people to, I think, also like not have that like all or nothing mindset too.
Yes, absolutely. Like I always tell my clients, like, that's awesome that you chose that really healthy, balanced meal. But that one meal does not change everything. And like, yeah, you might be disappointed in yourself that you ended up choosing a meal that you weren't planning to eat, but at the exact same way, right? One meal like that doesn't change anything. So it's like what we're doing consistently over time is what really matters.
Courtney, what is something that you feel like you learned from this past year about weight loss?
Figuring out why someone has formed a habit is really important before you can address changing that habit. Because, okay, are you overeating because you're busy with work and you're waiting too long to eat? Or are you overeating because, you're using food as like a coping mechanism to distract from other things? And, figuring that out can really help us figure out, okay, how do we need to address this? Do we need to add an extra snack during the day? Or maybe it's, you need to work with someone to, like a counselor, to work through your emotional issues. Because if you just try to use sheer willpower to stop a certain habit, if you aren't addressing the underlying cause, you're likely just going to kind of fall right back into that same pattern.
Yeah, I think that's great. Does anybody have any like clients in mind where like I know I have one that I can share that like they've kind of like thought about that like more like underlying part of all of that? I know one for me that comes up is I had a client who, honestly, there's like every time I start with clients, the one thing I say is like, we don't want to like go through just like a checklist of like, okay, like here's my 6 steps. We're going to eat produce. We're going to exercise. We're going to do this. And we don't want to just be like in the first 2 weeks, like, okay, great. I did it. Like, what's left for me to do? Cause I have had some clients like that. And now I tell my new clients, I'm like, we're not going to just treat this like a check off. Like, please don't go through and like do all these things all at once because then you'll end up just like burning out. We really want to spend like every 2 weeks, like on a good task. We want to see a little bit of even like messing up so that we can look through and be like, okay, like the reason you didn't eat protein is because we haven't really learned ever how to make a grocery list. So like, let's go through and like figure what that out looks like. So then like you'll continue to hit your protein and your produce goals. So that's kind of like how I kind of see that playing out with clients is like looking at like, these are the habits like face value, but then when we dig in, like, yeah, why are we not hitting them? Why haven't we hit them before? And then going to a professional to fix that, I think is really important. And that what a lot of other programs really neglect. Do you feel like you're tired of trying every new diet out there whenever you're ready to lose weight, but you never really find long-term success because it's either too restrictive or just not conducive to your lifestyle? Well, then let me tell you about our 3-month lifestyle reset program. This is an individualized weight loss approach where you'll be going through our proven 6-step method and you'll be led by a registered dietitian. By becoming a client of the program, you'll be able to learn how to control your weight, increase your energy and confidence, and also improve your overall well-being. Not to be dramatic, but a lot of clients tell us that they actually change their lives by going through the program and finally find a sustainable weight loss solution when they actually haven't found that with any other program. If you are interested in becoming a client, sign up for a discovery call on our website, themillennialnutritionist.com, with me, Isla Garcia, and I'll help match you with one of our registered dietitian coaches based off of your challenges and their nutrition expertise. If you're ready to find a sustainable weight loss solution in a non-judgmental and encouraging environment, I hope you'll connect with us soon. And then Hannah, what is something that you feel like you learned about weight loss from the last year, the newest coach that we have?
Yeah, I've only been at it for a couple of months, but I've already starting to like pick up trends with clients. And like the one thing that stood out to me very quickly, and is still super prominent, is you're likely eating too little. The amount of clients, really, I think all of my clients have come to me at eating under calories. And I think when you eat under calories, you end up overindulging later. So they're coming in on like 1,000 calorie a day diets or 1,200 calorie a day diets. And then I'm like, oh, we're going to eat like 2,000 calories. And their, like mind is blown. But with all of them across the board, what I've seen once they implement that is like energy levels are increased. They're not as tired. The cravings that they may have had are not as strong anymore. Like their mood is more stabilized, and just like holistically, like they feel so much better now that they're eating more.
Hannah, when I saw that that was your tip, I was like, dang, she stole my tip. I feel like this is like the number one problem I see across the board with my clients here and patients. When I work in the hospital, I really just feel like most of the time, so many people are under eating to the point where it causes us to overeat later. It causes all of these other issues like cravings and metabolism and different things. And I really feel like it's so cool as a coach to really watch someone learn that they can like eat enough for their body and really see results and progress that they want to see. And it's so fun too to just see people be like, hey, I feel really good. And it's like, oh, look what happens when we give our body what it needs and eat an appropriate amount for ourselves. So I love that that was your tip. And I feel like I can really relate to that this year.
It's literally my favorite thing. Like, I feel like every week, every other week, I'm like celebrating with somebody when they're like, oh my gosh, just a couple days ago, somebody was like, I really thought like I was going to gain like 10 pounds, like when I started eating what you told me to eat, but I didn't. And she was like, it's crazy. And I was like, I know.
Why do you think people lose weight when they like eat more? Do you think they're really eating more? Do you think it's like psychological? Like, what do you think like causes people to lose weight when they eat more, just in case somebody's like confused about that?
Under eating earlier in the day and overeating later. Like, I think people think they're eating less because they're like really small meals or really small snacks earlier in the day, or they're skipping breakfast, or they're having just a salad with no dressing for lunch or something crazy, right? But then, like, obviously your hunger is going to catch up to you. And so I think people end up really overeating at dinner, and then even later in the evening when they're maybe not thinking like, well, I only really had one big meal, right? But like if you didn't eat adequately earlier in the day, you're most likely going to end up overeating later. And I think those calories end up being way more than people think that they really are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like even like 2 to 3 times a week, if you're having like a binge type thing, like, late at night, like you could be consuming like 2,000 calories, like just in that one setting because you're like so hungry.
I think it's also interesting just when we think about like, I don't know if you all use the hunger scale, but like when we get so starving, when we deprive ourselves so much and we skip meals and we don't want to eat, it's really, really hard to make a healthy choice when you are that starving. And so I think that that also plays a lot into, following through with your plan. So if you meal prepped this like wonderful dinner where you had a plan to make something and then you got too hungry or your plan fell through, it's going to be really hard to do that. So it's also kind of setting yourself up for success. And then I think just kind of like nourishing your body and giving yourself the food that it needs really helps your body feel comfortable and just feel good during the day so that you have energy to like do the behaviors like exercise and focus. And I mean, my client right now, she's like, just eating breakfast helped me just be a better student and do all the things that I wanted to do. And I think it just helps change your mindset about it too.
Lacey, then let's go on to you. What is your tip, or what is something that you learned about weight loss this last year?
I think overall, like it's really just important to be realistic for yourself. I feel like I hear a lot of people make really broad or really unrealistic goals. Like for example, they're like, I want to lose 20 pounds. And it's like, okay, that's your goal. That's your overall goal. But really kind of making those goals for yourself more realistic, more achievable. And I like to use the word action oriented. So, like, set your goals up for yourself to help you get to your like overall goal. So I feel like just really being realistic and real with yourself and being like, what does this look like in my actual life right now to really help it fit and make it achievable for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's like where professionals can come in, right? And like help and make sure that your goal is achievable and doable. And I think give you a frame of mind too. I had a client call today and we make the program 3 months for multiple reasons. One is like financially, like it's easier to commit to a 3 month program than like a 2 year program, which I actually think like changes take 2 years, not just 3 months. But what we can, we don't want to think of things in like such a short term time, even if our program is only 3 months. We do want to think about things as terms and forever. So I think when we think about goals that are realistic for now, it doesn't mean that like we're only ever going to exercise for 5 minutes. Maybe that's just where we need to start because in 3 months we can commit to 5 minutes, but then we add on and add on. And I think not enough people really talk about that. And that's where I think like working with a professional can help you be like, yes, but this is how behavior change happens. It happens with these small realistic goals that we can kind of tack on. Is that kind of like what you see with your clients too, Lacey?
Yeah, I think, and I love that you mentioned just like the realistic, it can take a long time. I think if you're someone who's trying to lose weight and you're focusing on a quick fix, that's really not realistic for a long term goal because we know that these things can take a long time. I totally agree with that, and I feel like I see this all the time where we're really having to like peel back the layers and say like, okay, what is your actual overall goal, and how can we get there realistically?
Like I know all of us learned about SMART goals, right? In like college. I feel like that's like a fundamental part of like the ascended accreditation. But I always like underestimate too how much people don't know how to like make goals and how even like when I talk back at the end with clients, they're like, yeah, I think just like having these tangible goals have really helped me because I know exactly what to focus on. And it's not like they're crazy, but like knowing how to make an accurate goal can really help too.
I also
Let's
love by the end of the program how, we send you off with this like wonderful long-term plan and it's like a list of all of the things that are realistic that worked for your life. And it's so cool because clients are honestly just like, wow, those are all the things that I did and those are all the things that work for me and everyone's so different. And so again, what worked for your friend, what worked for that influencer is not necessarily going to be realistic for you. So it's important to have that mindset.
Yes, yes. I think that my next one is that you probably need to see a therapist. And I see that Catherine said the same thing, or the saying that that was a good one. Yes, I feel like I'm recommending everybody for therapy. I don't know if it's just like the people that we see or the type of clients that we get. Not that I don't think like everybody has an eating disorder, but I think like so much about like why we eat the things we eat, or like the thought, or because of thoughts that we have, or because of like reasons we've grown up. Because I feel like as a generation, like we know, I feel like people know generally like what should we be eating compared to like previous generations. But then I think like the disconnect sometimes is like those like habits or like that emotional connection to food, like for example, like knowing that you should probably be eating more fruits and vegetables, but then like not understanding why you act on it when you go out to eat or something like that, because maybe there's like an emotional component of either like you always celebrated with food, so every celebration you're still going to do that and go all out on the queso and the chips and guac and like all the tacos and stuff like that. Or that you have like such a weird like relationship with food that you put like healthy food in one category or unhealthy food in another category. Or even like stress management. Like stress is so, I feel like if every single one of my clients, the reason that they like overeat is because they get so stressed out, or stress is like causing like a huge cortisol response in their body, and that's why they can't work out. And so I think there's so many things that can be addressed with a therapist that people don't think about. Because as dietitians, our job is to look at the food and make sure you're not hungry, and making sure that you're eating enough protein and helping you with strategies for when you go out to that event and how to formulate a plate. But we're not really trained in like all the psychological stuff, but it's all so tied in together. Sometimes it's frustrating that I don't know how to help them in that way. Do y'all ever feel like that with clients?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I think we could have all said that answer with our hearts.
Yes, I think it's so, and this is one of the things I love about nutrition is that like food is so much more than just food, and it does truly blend into so many areas of our life, especially emotionally. And there are so many reasons why someone could eat the way that they eat, and so that one is such an important, component of just weight loss in general.
I feel like it's really hard because like our age demographic is like 30s, early mid 40s. And so you're getting these clients that have all of these like food beliefs and like things that have been instilled in them from childhood. So like in 3 months, you're trying to unpack like 20 years of just like misinformation or, just maybe not the things that we want to teach now. And it's really hard. And it's not something we can do by ourselves in a 3 month period.
And I think with the dieting industry, just so many people have like ingrained in them this just like equating their worth with their weight. And so they like just get hyper stressed and like, on edge when they're trying to diet. So really working with a therapist and like unpacking some of those, bad ideas about food and eating that have been sort of ingrained in a lot of people just, subconsciously through advertising and, social media and all that. It really takes the unpacking that mental piece too for a lot of people for the food habits to stick.
Well, I try to point out with clients that they need therapists is when like I have a client that'll like say something. I'm like, why do you think that? And they don't even like question why are they thinking that? And they're like, I don't know why I think that. And it's like, well, I think that's why you need a therapist because I can't help you with your thoughts, but I can identify like that's not like a healthy thought to have. Like, for example, like the one that comes to mind is a client who was like, well, I can't lose weight because I don't like to eat. Like, I don't want to eat just like chicken when I go out to eat. Like I like to eat the other foods too. And I don't want to never eat, gluten and I don't want to ever eat cake and I don't want to ever have alcohol. And I never said that. And so I told her, I was like, why are you having that thought? And she's like, well, I don't know. I thought that's how it's supposed to be. And it's like, no, like there's something in there that's making you have these thoughts that are really harmful and was causing her to feel so psyched out that she didn't think she could lose weight when it wasn't coming from me. So I think if you're wondering, you should see a therapist, like things like that. Or another reason I think working with a professional can just like help like pinpoint like why your thought process might not be like super healthy. Catherine, what about you? What's another thing that you feel like you learned about weight loss this past year?
The one that I thought of was mindset matters so much. So I think oftentimes, like I see my clients getting in their own way, right? They know they might do really great on working towards their goals. And then they have one thing that slips them up and they're like, forget it. I'm never going to lose weight. I can't do this. This is too hard. And then they just spiral down this sort of like negative thought path. Or, I'm never going to look this way, or I'm never going to look like this, or I'm never going to get to my pre-pregnancy weight, or whatever it may be. Right. And so, we talk a lot about those thoughts in the time together that we spend with the clients. But I think like, I just see time and time again, like the clients who are like, I can do this. This is awesome. Even if I had a bad day, like I know what I need to do to get back on track. And like, I'm going to do this because like I love myself and I love my body and I want it to have good energy and I want to be able to run and play with my kids and like that's worth it to fight for. Right? Like those clients do way better than the clients who are like, well, I'm just never going to do it. I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to reach my goals. Right? It was like, well, yeah, you're probably not if you're going to keep telling yourself that over and over every single day. I remind clients often that weight loss is so much about your mentality. Like it is really hard, right? Doing weight loss in a healthy way is very, very difficult because we're playing the long game. And so I think just figuring out whatever you need to do, find those little victories, those non-scale victories every single day of something that's positive to just keep you going. And that's going to make such a difference in your journey.
What is something that you do tell clients, like if they have that like negative mindset, or is like that what you tell them, what you just said, like trying to find that like one positive thing?
Yeah, I think the one positive thing helps. And I think saying like, hey, how would you talk to your daughter if she was doing this? Right. Because like, I guarantee you wouldn't say any of the things you just told me about yourself. Right. Or how would you talk to your best friend? Or how would, whoever it is, like if they were in the same boat, like what would you say to them? And they're
Mhm.
always like, you're right. I would never say this to someone. Right. We're so self-critical. We're definitely our own biggest critic. And so I just, encourage them to sort of shift that mindset and, maybe dig into a little bit, like, why do you think that? Why are you saying that? And sort of we'll even think of like or phrases to say to yourself of like, okay, when you start to feel that way, let's remind yourself, let's come back to the why. I'm doing this because I want to have good energy to be able to run and play with my kids. I'm doing this because I want to feel confident and I want to be able to, go on a long walk over vacation, or, whatever their motivator is, right? Like, we got to find something besides just a number on the scale, because that's not going to continue to be a great motivator forever.
I have the same thing with clients, like sometimes and telling them like, my positive clients tend to do better. And it's not even like better the number on the scale, but like, again, we're just spending like a couple of months with people, but like if our previous clients are listening, like 3 months is such a short amount of time, in the course of somebody's whole life. And weight loss, I don't feel like is super linear. Like some people report back to me that they lose way more weight after they work with me compared to when they're working with me. But it's those ones that have been like, I didn't lose weight this week, but because I ate lunch today during my busy work day, I felt like so much more productive. And then I was able to go exercise. And that made it worth it this week. And I'm focusing on just feeling good through this busy week and nourishing myself, because then that means they'll stick with those habits. They're not going to overeat later on because they've been so restrictive through the week. And then they're going to have weight loss 2 weeks later, as compared to the person who was like, well, I'm not going to lose weight on it. It's a busy week. I'm just going to let everything go because I'm not losing weight anyway. And then 2 weeks, then they haven't lost weight. It's like they made it happen anyway. So I think that's like another example of like how being positive can like pull you through, because you do need something you can rely on. And then before you know it, like months pass and you're doing the habits and you're like, oh, and my weight came down too. It's like typically how I see it with people. Do y'all have any other tips? Because I feel like that's hard for people who aren't inherently positive to do that. Like when y'all have clients like that, what do you say if you do say anything?
This is just such an important like piece of it. And I agree, Catherine, that like my clients who are more positive and who can say like, this was hard, but this, tend to do better. And I feel like we can just make progress overall quicker because we're not spending our entire session just like dwelling about something.
Mhm.
But what worked really well for one of my clients was I guess not everyone is a journaler, but at the end of the day, she would write down like at least one thing that went well. I think our goal was two, one that was like health related and one that was like emotional. And I think that helped her a lot, just kind of like break out of that mindset of like, today was, I still made progress today. I still accomplished my goal today. So if you're someone who inherently is always kind of thinking of that negative, that could be a way to kind of force yourself to at least come up with one positive thing. And it doesn't even have to be related to any of your goals, but that could kind of help you get in the mindset of like thinking a little bit more positively about your goals.
Yeah, I love that. I do that for myself because I'm fine with like the weight and the food stuff, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't get enough stuff done at work today. Or oh my gosh, I didn't clean my house enough. And I have to think like, okay, Isla, like what did you get done today? And then I always feel better. And so that's what I tell
And
my clients too.
yeah, and then it's helpful because then you have like a whole journal of things that you're doing well. And so if you are having like a really, really bad day, you can just flip back and be like, okay, these are all the things I did this week. And, that's even something positive that you can add. So like we can always find something. And then also just like reaching out to your coach too, if you
Mhm.
are like stuck. Because we're kind of here to help. I know that's not always our scope, therapy is always
Right.
helpful too, but yeah, I totally agree with that tip.
Courtney, what is your second thing that you feel like you learned about weight loss this year?
I'm finding that like with several clients that I've worked with this year, that like just the idea of making like a menu for the week and writing down all the individual ingredients they need to get and getting all those ingredients from the grocery store to cook multiple meals every week can be really like overwhelming for a lot of people, especially if they're used to like eating mostly fast food or like just really convenient like packaged items. So I found that for a lot of clients that just having like mix and match items on hand that they can just quickly throw together for a meal, so like salad stuff or like, chopped up veggies and hummus, like prepped protein, like boiled eggs or rotisserie chicken, just knowing that they've got some components at home that they can quickly throw together a meal in like 15 or 20 minutes, I think is such a weight off for a lot of people, because they realize to be healthy that, I don't have to spend 3 hours in the kitchen every single day. I can, have some things that are easy to throw together and still meet my nutritional needs.
Yeah, you talk about with you have like all those. I'll have to like dig into all the other tips you have about that because you talked about the sauces that like blew my mind. I never thought about that before. I feel like you and Catherine are both good at those like easy things. Do you have any other like what easy ingredients do you like find that I guess like clients like to stock up on? I know my clients like love bag salads and stuff, but what are those like easy ingredients that you find like your clients gravitating towards?
The prepped proteins, like whether that's smoked salmon or they boil some eggs one day and just have those in the fridge to grab. The salad stuff, or I have, one client who she likes to make kind of like a little charcuterie. Is that how you say that? With
Yeah.
different little ingredients, just like the deli meat and maybe like some whole grain crackers and maybe like some chopped up veggies and dip those in hummus or something like that. Especially up until dinner, she prefers to just kind of snack multiple times during the day than rather than having like three big meals. But she hated how many times she had to clean up the kitchen after making all her different like small meals and snacks. So just having those things that she doesn't have to actually cook has been really helpful.
Oh, I was just gonna say I really like that you like also talk to your clients about like staple items. So like, okay, what does it look like if you didn't get a chance to do all that meal prep you want to do? Like, do you have like frozen fruit? Do you have frozen veggies? Do you have like canned beans or like the canned salmon? Like, what are we gonna do if we didn't have time to do that elaborate like meal plan? So I like that you talk about like the prep, but then also like, okay, we also need some staple items like just in case.
For so many of my clients, the time when they make poor choices, well, it's one of two times. It's either late at night or it's like right after work because, maybe it's been a long time since they've had lunch and like they got busy that afternoon and forgot to eat a snack. And then they think, oh, I've got to go home and it's going to be, another 2 hours before I'm eating something. Well, that makes stopping at the drive-through on the way home sound a lot more appealing. But if you've got something you can throw together in the amount of time it would take you to drive through the drive-through, then it's not going to be as tempting.
Yeah, I had a client this week that prepped and she was like, by Wednesday, my teenage son had eaten all of my chicken. And so I was like, all right, so next time we're going to have like some canned like chickpeas because you said he liked those. You said he liked the smoked salmon. So we're going to do that too.
Hide it in the back of the fridge.
Yeah. Put on like the really high shelf and like the other stuff.
Do y'all have any other like quick things that clients tend to like or things that you find that clients have success with that you recommend?
Frozen proteins, frozen veggie burgers, frozen turkey burgers, frozen salmon burgers, frozen veggies, microwavable packets of rice, or like whole wheat bread that you can put in the freezer so it doesn't go bad. Anything like that that's going to be quick and easy. I always tell clients like just like you were saying, Courtney, like you can microwave quicker and it's going to end up being healthier and cheaper and easier. So,
Yep, you were right. We were going to say the same thing. I was going to say, I always have my clients kind of like identify a backup meal and like always have that in their freezer or pantry or whatever it is. So like 1 or 2 meals that we know how to prepare pretty quickly, like 10, 15 minutes or less, making sure you kind of like always have those ingredients on hand. And then if you're someone who's like constantly gravitating towards going out to eat and you feel like that's really hard, kind of always having that like out to eat backup meal where it's like, okay, if I don't feel like cooking, I can grab a salad from this restaurant and I know it's a good choice. So having those like backup plans because we know that life happens and it's probably going to happen within, the next month. So having that planning ahead for yourself.
Yes, being realistic, I think is so important. Hannah, what is your second thing you feel like you've learned about weight loss this year?
If you do like 75%, like 7 days of the week versus 100% 2 days of the week, your 75% is going to carry you through so much more than just trying to do like 100%, like those 2 days and it's too much and then it goes downhill. Rather than if you just shoot for 75, like consistently, you're going to like be in so much better shape, like progress wise.
Yes. And I think that's something like hard to wrap your mind or for, like for people to wrap their mind around. Like, why do y'all think that's the case? Like, why do you feel like people think that the 1 to 2 days like are going to be so much more effective than like the 6 days that aren't like perfect?
I don't know if they have like the plan that they're only going to do it 2 days. I think people fully, I mean, this is just my opinion, but like that they fully intend to be like that level of perfection the whole week. But it's not always achievable because life does happen. We get tired, we get burnt out. Our son eats all of our food, like something always happens. So I think just like taking it down like a little bit, like makes it a little bit more achievable. And then when we can't hit the 100%, we don't like beat ourselves up about it.
I find that people who are able to accept, okay, maybe I'm not going to go from eating, a fourth of the protein that I need to eating all of my protein, and from doing 1,000 steps a day to doing 10,000 steps a day. Like people who are able to accept, okay, I'm just going to do 4,000 steps this week. And then the next week, I'm going to aim for 6,000 steps, and sort of allowing that progress to build on itself rather than saying, okay, I'm going to do all of this at once and then feeling bad and defeated when you can't meet those unachievable goals.
Yeah. I feel like that makes me think of like, again, that I don't think that like diet culture does like the best job at talking about like the how to do the goals. Just like if you want to lose weight, you got to do this thing. If you want to lose weight, you got to eat these little soup packets, or you got to like do like super low carb. But it's not like about, okay, but like how are we going to make this sustainable? And so then I feel like people think that the only way they can lose weight is if they get it perfect right in the beginning, because that's like what everybody else says. But it's like we know that time has kind of showed us that like things like that don't work. So we've got to think it through, and we've got to like take it slow and then like work towards like the best we can kind of do for the long term. And then Lacey, why don't you finish us off? What is the last thing that you feel like you learned about weight loss in 2023?
Truly, weight loss is not all or nothing. And this can be such a hard thing for someone to break, because I feel like we are oftentimes striving to be perfect and feeling really, really bad if we mess up one day, or we don't do everything we said we were going to do. But it's really not all or nothing. And it's still so possible to make progress and work towards our goals, even if we are not perfect 100% of the time. As we're making these changes and focusing on progress, we're thinking about kind of like the rest of our life, right? And so we're not expecting ourselves to be perfect forever. That's never really a goal that anyone should have for themselves, really, and not something that like you have to do in order to lose weight. And so really like getting out of that all or nothing mindset can be really important, and just being open-minded to new victories, and like learning things that maybe you didn't think you would kind of get out of it, celebrating those little small victories, and having like a non-scale goal to kind of work towards too in the meantime, to help with that like all or nothing mindset. Do you all feel like you see the all or nothing mindset a lot?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's definitely not how we see progress at all. So it can be really challenging though.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, what I work through with clients on that is like, I mean, I give clients like the upfront of like, this is the 6 steps that I'm going to take us through. But like, I don't tell them in the back of my head, like, if this doesn't work, like, there's other things we can do. It's just like, this is what works in the beginning. And so I feel like another thing that like fad diets teach is like, if you don't do this right way, then like you're the failure. And then I feel like that perpetuates the all or nothing, or at least in my opinion, where for me, I'm like, okay, but I know about biology and I know about metabolism. I know about chemistry. I know about pharmacologically. So like I know like there's things that are going on that like we might need to do something else, but I'm not going to overwhelm you in the beginning. So I feel like people who have an all or nothing mindset, at least what I see is like they think if they don't meet these like 6 steps, and they're never going to lose weight, and then they spiral and they do all these things, other things we're saying. But instead, if we think about it just like a journey and like super hippy dippy, like we're going to figure out you and your body, because everybody's body is different. And so we've got to like just take it as it comes and try these different things. And we can't just give up in the beginning just because like it didn't work and that's over. At least I feel like how I see it a lot. I also see it like other ways with like I was saying, people who think that like, but I don't want to be super restrictive and everything when you don't have to be. What do you think is like on the other side of like overcoming the all or nothing mindset? Like what's the reward of like trying to stick it out?
I think it's just exhausting and so difficult, right? To feel this all or nothing approach. And I think it's a cycle that perpetuates, right? So it's like, okay, I did great. And then I went to a party and I ate, 5 servings of chips with a high calorie dip. and now I feel like garbage, but I feel bad about myself and I'm upset. And so when I come home, I didn't have any brownies at the party and I don't know the next time I'm going to have a brownie. And so I want to eat one. And then you feel crummy, right? And then you're like, okay, I'm going to restart tomorrow. And then you restrict. And then another situation like that comes up. And then you think, gosh, I don't know the next time I'm going to have this again. So I better, instead of just having one and enjoying it, I better have 3 or 4, or I better take some home, or I better, whatever it may be. And then again, the cycle restarts and we just go round and round and you're not seeing results, right? Because we always end up overeating because we've restricted too much. So I just think there's a lot of freedom on the other side of that. I think of like, you can have a brownie if you want, and that's totally okay. And that can totally fit in your weight loss journey, right? And you don't have to feel bad about it. You can savor it and enjoy it. Do you need to have 4 at one time and feel crummy about yourself? Absolutely not. But if that happens, you know what? It's okay, right? We all take some step backs. It's all about like just seeing like, okay, that was one thing, that was one action, and I'm not going to let that ruin everything. I'm just each new meal, each new day is a new opportunity to choose something to nourish your body. And so I think like freedom is the word that I think of a lot on the other side of it that is definitely worth working through. It's not an easy thing to overcome, for sure. It's like I feel like it's a lifelong battle to overcome the all or nothing approach.
I love that you said like freedom, because that totally came to my mind too. And I think oftentimes, like with diet culture and feeling like this all or nothing mindset, we feel like we're in a box and we feel like we, are doing this thing that we don't really want to be doing. And that's what causes us to feel like we can't really make our own choices. So, really like freedom and just like confidence in yourself. Like, hey, I've got this. I know that I can do X, Y, and Z. I have a good plan, because, the program is really only 3 months long. And so we want you to build that confidence to be able to do this, for good. And so I would say freedom, confidence, just like feeling like you can make the decision for yourself and not have to have this like yo-yo mindset of I'm doing really well, now I'm doing really bad. Just like feeling more positive in general.
And results, like you don't like it. Sometimes it doesn't even work when people like don't have all or nothing, like that have the all or nothing mindset. Cause that thing that you said, Catherine, like you end up just eating like more calories that way anyway. And so like learning how to focus less, I think, on food, figure out what works. It doesn't need to be super aggressive. So you can stick with it, move on with your life like you're supposed to do, and then not over obsess about food. I find clients tend to have like better results. They feel better. And they like have so many other benefits besides just the lower number on the scale. But I think that is a great one to end on. I think this is cool. Hopefully we can do it every year because it's exciting. I feel like I'm learning new stuff about weight loss every year. But thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And this is going to come out at the end of the year. So everybody listening, I hope you have a happy new year. Thank you so much for listening to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. For daily weight loss tips and nutrition information, you can find us on Instagram at the.millennial.nutritionist and on TikTok at millennial.nutritionist. If you find this information helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs encouragement on their health journey. See you in the next episode.